What was the scariest moment of your life? Mine started on a quiet Wednesday afternoon in August. I opened my door in gym shorts and socks and saw 7 officers standing on my porch. The lead officer said they got a report of violent yelling from inside my house. I actually laughed and said, "Wrong house. I live alone. Only thing yelling in here is my air conditioner." One officer asked for my ID. My wallet was right on the entry table, so I handed it over, still thinking this was a mix-up that would disappear in a minute. He studied my license, glanced at his partner, and said, "Sir, can you step outside for a moment?" I stepped out. No worries. The moment my foot touched the concrete porch, another officer grabbed my arm. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." I froze. "Wait, what's going on?" He didn't explain, just repeated, "Turn around." Cold steel locked around my wrists. They sat me on my own front step. I asked what this was about. The lead officer said, "There's a warrant for your arrest, out of state." I laughed again. I don't even jaywalk. I asked what kind of warrant. He said they weren't given details, only that it had a no bond clause, which meant I wasn't going anywhere. They loaded me into the cruiser. I had nothing but gym shorts, mismatched socks, and my phone, taken from me instantly. I asked the officer driving where the warrant was from. He said he couldn't disclose that. 30 minutes later, I was in a holding cell in Miami-Dade with 12 guys who all looked like they ran the place. Nobody spoke. Nobody blinked. They just stared at the half-dressed guy who clearly didn't belong there. At midnight, they moved me again. New facility. Same nightmare. They handed me a flat foam pad and a blanket that smelled like old sweat and cigarettes. My bed was concrete. The next morning, I asked what I was being charged with. "Out-of-state warrant," the officer said. "Judge will explain." I asked when. He shrugged. Day 3, I asked another officer if I could call someone. Anyone. He said I'd need a court order. Day 4, still in the same clothes. Day 5, still no attorney, no phone call. I'm eating something that looked like wet cardboard and tasted worse, sleeping on concrete, and still no one could tell me why I was there. Day 6, a guy in my pod asked what I did. I told him I genuinely didn't know. He just nodded, like he'd heard every excuse in the book. Day 7, an officer said I'd see a judge tomorrow. Day 8, I finally did. Shackles on my ankles and wrists. Orange jumpsuit, 2 sizes too big. The judge looked at my file. "It's an out-of-state warrant," he said. "Your choices are simple. Fight extradition and stay here for at least 60 days. Or agree and maybe leave in 45. I asked what I was accused of. He said, "That information isn't in your file." I asked for access to my phone. He said he'd never heard of needing a court order for that, but signed it anyway. Day 9, I gave the order to the officer. "Phone's dead," he said. "We can't charge it." I asked when I could use it. He said, "Don't know." Day 12, my back felt broken from concrete. Day 15, panic kicked in. No one knew where I was. My daughters back in Virginia hadn't heard from me in over 2 weeks. Day 18, an officer said transportation was coming. Day 20, still no update. Day 24, 3 deputies from Virginia showed up at 4 in the morning. They shackled my hands and feet and loaded me into a transport van. 14 hours, 3 states, 1 meal, no answers. Around hour 5, I convinced one deputy to message my brother from his phone. My brother replied, "This is a scam, nice try," and blocked him. 40 hours later, we reached the intake facility in Richmond. The officer at the desk pulled up my file, frowned, and said, "This warrant was cleared 3.5 years ago. Someone forgot to close it in the system." I just stood there in shackles, staring. I lost 24 days of my life. Lost my job because I disappeared. Lost my apartment because I couldn't pay rent.